Okay, I'm Michele Magri. I've been here at Noi for the past 3 years. I work in a startup here. I'm 16 years old, and yeah, I've started my coding career here at Noi 3 years ago today at the Noi Hackathon. In fact, I'm partaking in that too in this moment. And yeah, today I'll talk about this growing trend that it's like disturbing me quite a lot because I see many people using these new tools. They're continuously like new, but not using them correctly and introducing all of these issues in the code. As far, according to the 2024 Stack Overflow survey, 62% of engineers were using some sort of AI assistant in their code, but most of them say that they just trust the AI output without actually double checking. And that's very dangerous. In fact, people oftentimes think that AI-generated code is almost the holy grail of code, like it writes perfect code. That's absolutely false, because in my last year of testing, I actually tried to vibe code myself. And yeah, it didn't go as planned, and I've recognized a common trend, like the security researchers in this study that I've mentioned in my sources. And they say too that AI agents aren't able to recognize common vulnerabilities like SQL injection and so on. To back up this point, we can see how the GitHub Security Advisory Database has been growing. In 2019, they upgraded their infrastructure to cover more coding languages, and so you see that big jump. But in 2021 and 2022, they didn't do nothing. Almost abruptly, the reviewed advisories doubled, and that can be almost attributed to the release of ChatGPT, because most developers have tried it instantly and actually pushed code without double checking because they weren't aware of the dangers of it. The problem in LLM-assisted coding tools is that most of them just use the most popular libraries without taking into account what's the best library that we can use and what's the most secure that we can use. Oftentimes, NPM libraries, the most popular ones, have a lot of issues in their development, and nobody checks them. These LLMs agents, they should also check the CVEs, open CVEs, but they don't. And yeah, they can't recognize these malicious codes. Another problem with this LLM garbage, I'll say it's garbage, is that it gets trained on GitHub repositories, at least talking about GitHub Copilot, but people have been known to mostly write garbage code. We always introduce vulnerabilities in our code, and these large corporations that are training these models are training these models on these vulnerabilities. And so inherently, the models are going to propose vulnerable code. Another problem I see nobody talking about, I saw a few talks, but that's it, and it's that these black boxes by big corporations are exposed to private data, like actual private consumer data. And many developers and engineers connect them directly to their production databases, which is absurd in my opinion. And in my opinion, the key is transparency, both in the legal frameworks we currently have, because they're definitely not adequate for the speed of development. And we are already working on it. Europe has released the AI Act that it's trying to mitigate some parts of the AI, but it's clearly made by someone that doesn't understand how it works, because many things that it covers are to protect actual people online, but not to protect the consequences of bad code. But what can we do actually now to use these super useful tools in a safe manner? First of all, something that really surprised me in this study, it was that security-conscious prompts really improve the output. If you ask via your prompts that it should write safe code and it should double-check it, it will oftentimes produce better code and safer code, deleting most of the common vulnerabilities like SQL injections. Another thing that's very important that I see a lot of engineers skipping, even in my daily code reviews, is the review imperative. Like, they don't review the code that these tools spit out. They just accept it if it works. And it's crazy. Like, it made my job 10 times worse because now my time to review code, it's like almost doubled. And yeah, it's not great. I'm talking by experience here. And yeah, a last thing I wanted to talk about. Last year, a lot of like automated security integration tools, specifically aimed to LLMs, have been coming out. And yeah, they work, kind of. You still need human reviews, but you can use them as simple as adding an MCP server to your VS Code, by example. And you don't need an account or anything. It just works, and it helps your code quite a lot. So please use them if you actually use these tools. And another very specific tools that I wouldn't trust myself, but if you're doing something not incredibly dangerous or that code shouldn't come out, you could try to use Snyk and Ceph Inspec. They are very good at what they do, but I wouldn't trust how they store data at the moment for their privacy policy. And yeah, as a last thing, I would talk about education on these models. With this, I mean, these tools are incredibly useful if you know how to use them. And most of people come into these tools like, yeah, I know already how to use it, I just ask to do something. It's incredibly false, and it shows that people are using them in this way. And we should start to understand more the limitations of LLMs, because yeah, we are always listening about these new models that come out, incredible context window, but at the end, they are not that good. If you put them on a very big project, like an enterprise application, it very often like confuses stuff, invents random functions, implements duplicated code, which is unacceptable for code maintenance, obviously. And yeah, another thing that we could do is use the support by organizations, schools, and universities to actually explain this. Like, they oftentimes explain the usual vulnerabilities like SQL injection and so on, but they could actually explain how AI could actually destroy their application by simply getting one function wrong. So yeah, I've been closing with last question for y'all, and is that I want you to think if you should use these tools responsibly and actually start reviewing your code beforehand and actually check if there could be some kind of vulnerabilities, or if you actually want to use it wrong and just go on because they just pay us. So I don't know. Yeah, it's crazy what has happened in the last year, and I don't like it. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have, yes, still a little bit of time for some questions. There's a lot of people here. Do you want to make some comments or make some further questions? Yes?
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much for the presentation. I was just curious, maybe you mentioned it and it slipped my mind, but you mentioned, of course, seeing people using AI more is obstructing your work because you have to clean up after them. But where else have you seen the consequences of this? You mentioned 62% of developers using AI assistants.
Yeah, recently I've been using more and more like SaaS products like everybody in here. And I've noticed that many of them are vibe coded, and I can actually like very often bypass limitation by them. And if they don't want me to do something like reading other customer data, I can easily do that because they didn't double check their authentication functions. And that scares me because I'm not gonna use it in a wrong way, but someone will. Absolutely, someone will. If the products grow, it's gonna happen. And that worries me about putting my actual data on certain platforms. And that's why it's been a growing trend to put false identification data on various like services. And yeah, it's very scary. On the privacy side too, yeah, that's it.
Okay. Other comments, questions?
you.